Hello everybody, and welcome back to the LJL officially unofficial cast coverage of the LJL 2020 Summer Split. We are at game number 8, featuring Rascal Jesters facing off against the Fukuoka SoftBank Hawks Gaming. Man, it's been a while since I've said that full title. Gentlemen, these are our two losers of the bottom 4 games. Rascal Jester and the Hawks had some rather questionable games for both of them, which has left us in this very interesting place to find out who's going to be tied with DFM for that 1-on-1 bracket and who's going to be 0-2 joining our other 2 0-2s.
And yeah, don't get me wrong, it's not, it feels bad losing your first game. It feels bad kind of being put towards you're going to look at the tables at the end of the stage and go like, drat, I'm in bottom, I'm tied for last or whatever. But you are also in this kind of pack of 4 teams in this back end of the day with the 2 top finishers from Spring Split. You're not expecting it to be easy. So this is where you want to pick up your win and feel a little bit better about yourself.
And to echo in on that as well, this is not an easy week or an easy kind of place for either teams to be in. The Jesters are down 2 of their core members. Vivid is super experienced as an ex-DFM member. This is a man who has a lot of talent. He's not here. Similar with Ninja. This is a guy who's way back from 2015 with WE and the likes. Neither are here because they're stuck in career. And that means they've got 2 substitutes in, and that's hard. The Hawks are shifting roles. They've got a new top one. They've got an old new top laner in at the top side. Dash is back to the mid lane. Things are getting difficult for both squads. This is a bit of a chance against slightly easier opposition to maybe show us a little bit more.
So let's first talk about one of my most favorite things to talk about, and that's the draft process. Rascal Jesters are our mad scientists. They are willing to give DFM all of the power picks, as we saw, and we'll figure it out. They also are more than happy to do the opposite of that and give nobody any power picks because no one's allowed them. Bad! No Nymera! No power picks! No.
Ari's banned.
Ari's always. I didn't bring up Ari. I didn't bring her up because
it reminds me of my Clash games.
Reminds me of the influencer games.
Oh gosh.
The LJL influencer games.
Oh, that was some special stuff during the stream.
That was definitely some fun action, gentlemen. Who do we think is going to win in this matchup of the Hawks facing off against the Jesters?
So I know we've got a little prediction game going on behind the scenes as well. Yes. And I'm not going to change it. I don't know whether I can right now. I'm not going to change it from the Hawks. I think that the Hawks have a lot of issues, don't get me wrong. I do think that in this game, they're going to have an easier laning phase. You're not against Seros and Evi in those solo lanes. So I'm hoping that they can maybe make it through to their mid-game a little bit more intact.
I'm going for the Jesters. I have a fair amount of faith in Art and Hachimetra. I think they're both excellent players, and I still see systematic errors in the way Hawks are playing the game. Whereas I think Jesters had weaknesses with some of their laning, at least in the mid. I think Pink struggled quite a lot, but I still see kind of the idea of the Jesters still in there, I guess.
That's fair. I think both teams have some form of point. I think if you look at the Hawks, they have outright history with 3 of their core members, and that can play out rather well, and maybe just that trust will come through. Granted, that does leave potentially Pooh and Honey a bit to the curb, which could be good, could be bad. We'll have to wait and see.
For sure.
On the other side, though, obviously we have Rascal Jester, who have got those substitutes in, but in their favor, in the same sense as the Aramic for the Hawks, these are substitutes that have been with them since the beginning of spring. So that does mean there's a bit of weight when you go, well, who are these guys? Oh, well, they've been with us for 5-6 months at this point. And you go, well, okay, maybe they at least are aware of how these players work. Nymera said off stream to us that, well, they've now got 2 teams basically in one team with substitutes.
They have a practice team. They have a sister team,
effectively, which could be beneficial. I did side with Rascal Jester though, because I mean, while it's a weird relationship I have with the Hawks right now.
It's complicated.
Yes. The Jesters.
Facebook statuses abound.
The Jesters just feel a bit more coherent as the mad scientists.
With you.
And yeah, and let's be honest, like both the teams did have to play against, Sengoku and DFM. So how much can we read into that?
That's rough.
I think the thing for me is that so I was talking about Dasher and about patience, and Adamic and Dasher missing out on 1v1s. Against Seros and Ebby, I think if you're doing that against Pink and Cog, there's a good chance they work out this time.
That's true, actually.
That's why I'm a little bit more high up on them. It's a closer matchup. This is probably, I would have said the closest matchup would have been DFM Sengoku, but yeah, no, this is another close matchup. I'm not going to compare the two games.
It depends
how very different.
I think it depends how drafting goes, really, and kind of the compositions that these teams draft. I would like to see maybe the Hawks not draft a dive comp and maybe have more of a scaling comp, something a bit late game. I personally would like to see Dasher play a Cassadin and have to wait
That'd be fun.
and to farm.
Bit of patience. I can see where you're going with
But that's not going to happen. We all know that's not really going to happen.
I think everyone who's played Caston has had that moment where you tick 6, you go in, and you just, eat a tower shot and die.
And you're just like, wait, I do, no damage. What?
That's the point!
I'm so confused. And then you hit 16, you go, I do all the damage. This is great fun. Gentlemen, where's your lane to watch?
Jungle for me.
I think I'm with you. I think these are two of the more story players in the LJL. They're two of our better junglers in the LJL. Well,
they look good in game 1 too.
and Tussle did some pretty good. I know, obviously, Tussle had a bit of a difficult time with his lanes kind of collapsing around him, but that's been a problem with the Hawks in general. When the Hawks have looked good, Tussle's been leading the charge. Hachimecha, when he's had an early game, has been leading the charge for the Jesters. I think they're both really important in this match.
Okay.
What about you?
I would probably want to say that mid lane because I want to see Dasher really pull through, or it'd be nice to see Pink actually have a nice, a pretty solid performance, get the confidence boost and everything else going. But gentlemen, we are in a quick and ban, pick and ban phase, and it's gone through quickly. So I'll pass it over to you, and good luck to both these teams.
Thank you once again, Lexi.
Thank you again, buddy. And of course, there's some really interesting bans we have to highlight. Katarina has been taken away from Pink. Fiddlesticks has been taken away from Hachimecha. That's the second time it's been banned away from him. I wonder what has been happening in scrims to see that ban so aggressively against that man.
There's something to be said about that. I think that if you've got people who are new coming into the lineup and they're finding success with, this one bread and butter comp they've had in scrims, you don't want to give them that comfort on stage. It's going to be a Phelios, one of those primary AD carries, traded for Ezreal and Graves. So not first pick Ezreal, so first pick of Phelios. That's a big signpost of priorities here from the Hawks.
It is, but it's also doubling up the poke to make it more like Burst. We've seen this with things like Varus before, and we'll see a response of a Trundle here potentially from Tussle. He does like to play that pick, but it's not the best pick into a Graves.
No, I was talking more about the Phelios as the priority. Right?
Oh, sure.
The first pick is it's about poke. I'm like, Phelios, that's a poke champion. No,
I was thinking Ezreal Graves more. I was thinking.
Varus is often paired up with a Phelios. I'm like, what elo are you talking?
No. Varus and Graves. And Graves.
So we have once again the Wukong picked for the Hawks. It is a flex pick, can go between mid and top lane. Largely in the top lane, though. That's where we almost certainly expect that to be. Trundle going to be picked in as well. That's okay versus the Graves. You can disengage yourself pretty fine. You can steal the AD away from the Graves. You're not going to win that 1v1. Graves absolutely out DPS, so you can run you about the map. But it's not like Trundle is too vulnerable to just get one shot.
There are very few champions that Trundle is desperately vulnerable to. He can be sort of invaded, kind of his camp's taken away, but it's not the easiest to kill him in the 1v1 because he's a bit tanky.
Interesting thing to me is that this is a Nautilus picked up instead of the Yuumi. So this screams to me, Rascal Jester, like, okay, right, Nagi, we want you on the engage. We don't want to play around this Yuumi, which could potentially go over to the Aphelios lane as well.
Not bad with a Wukong and a Trundle as well.
So there's definitely a lot of stuff you can work around that.
There's still, of course, the second phase of bans here, which could well, of course, see that Yuumi taken away. It's Ornn and Azir thus far, but I would be kind of unsurprised to to see the Yumi taken out. Of course, remember, this is the Jesters.
Well,
And Nautilus could still go mid for
You
them.
know what the funny thing is? The first matchup in spring between the Hawks and the Jesters was a game that the Hawks won. And
Yes.
it was with that Azir in the mid lane. And
Yes.
Pooh had a fantastic
Oh,
brawn
man,
game.
the Braum was awesome.
It was Ramne back then, of course. He's now the substitute mid laner for the Hawks. Dasher moved back to the mid lane, as we have alluded to before. Zoe also removed from Dasher. Lucian's not banned. The something which we have seen almost permanently banned against this team could make its way into the mid lane. And it's going to be Malphite locked in for Rascal Jester. That is
rock solid, baby.
rock solid. Is it going to be the FPX skin?
Oh,
yes.
Man alive. Well, it's feeling very FPX with Nautilus and Malphite locked in. They've got a lot of damage with the Graves and the Ezreal. Throw in some R buttons from a Nautilus and a Malphite, and things start to look a little bit scary for Honey on that Aphelios.
They might do. Well, that's what we might have to see. An early Death's Dance coming out. It won't be early. It will be precisely when it needs to be. The Thresh locked
First item.
in. The Thresh locked in for Pooh as well.
Maybe
We're going
way
to
to
see
get him out.
another Thresh versus Nautilus lane. The battle of the Aftershock Hook champions. With that Lansin being very important to save someone like an overextended AD carry, and now there are two of them to save with that Lansin. The Corky's locked in.
It's getting out of hand for sure. There are the two of them, and we were asking for a little bit more patience, a bit more consistent scaling from Dasher. Corky certainly fits that. You know what else is a ridiculously powerful ultimate to layer on top of your Malphite Unstoppable Force?
No.
I was going to say, Rumble Ultimate would have been a great one, but instead it's going to be the Hero's Entrance.
Oh, that's good. Cool.
Yeah.
Right. Well, see, I'm glad I didn't know, because it allowed them to change what they were going to do at the last second.
The impact crater that will be left beneath a depth charge, an unstoppable force, and of course the Hero's Entrance is going to be pretty obscene.
Yes, you will be able to see that from the moon.
Yes.
It is going to, in fact, it will be
This will
the
be
surface of the moon.
Yeah, it'll be the KT Extinction event. Unfortunately, not playing against Sengoku Gaming, where there would be the SKT members.
Something like that. So, full compositions have been locked in. I'm liking the ranged backline of the Hawks. We're talking about, well, Lexi was saying, hey, I kind of want these guys to play a little bit more patient. I want them to have to scale and not fight early, because they just are too prone to doing that and they lose the game. You have a Corki, you got an Aphelios. That's certainly something within your wheelhouse.
Mm-hmm.
Going to come out of the draft screen. Get to look at those again for a bit.
Do.
And yeah, however, you're now playing against an Ezreal. Ezreal, we know to be very strong. He scales in his own right. And largely he scales because you can't kill him. Eventually it gets to the point where you jump onto him and he just has enough sustain and enough damage to just threaten you, but just drain tank off you.
I see where you're coming from here. The thing is, I see scaling with the Corki and the Aphelios. If they can survive the Wombo combo, maybe there's some turnarounds available. But it's going to be hard bloody work. You throw in that depth charge and you time the rest of your ultimates around it, and I don't care if you've got a Valkyrie, you won't avoid the knockups.
I have to say, if Galio doesn't get the perfect Hero's Entrance, there are a lot of ways to keep him at arm's length, particularly with Graviton. And you've also got Valkyrie to disengage, Lantern to disengage.
Pillar.
The Pillar's a big one too. And of course, when you've got the Cyclone with the clone to kind of to give you that kind of stationary spinning clone, and then Wukong can run away as well, there are ways to disengage the Galio. The question is whether Pink can play with enough foresight to know where his team is, not go too deep into the enemy backline, and have that continued teamfight presence and not just be the lone diver.
I'm assuming Corki gets quite a nice lane into the Galio as well. That would be
so,
my assumption. Of course, magic damage versus that Corki does put out versus the Galio can be shielded a certain amount, but the range and the rockets feels pretty nice.
The problem is, Corki doesn't have a way to stop the Justice Punch like someone like a Syndra or Ari or someone with some kind of displacement has to stop that charge. So you can just return fire back onto him, then use your taunt to get that out. If you're running Aftershock, you can do that. Spellbook is run as well. So then you just set up for your Graves very well.
But I'd say every lane's got great setup for the Graves, particularly come level 6.
And if a Malphite comes in as well, that is the ultimate setup.
Well, Dasher may need to show a little bit of patience going in, but he's going to have to be very, very quick on the finger getting out. There could be not a lot of time, a very small window for him to escape things. And for the Aphelios as well, who, at least Corki has a Valkyrie. There's no such thing really for that Aphelios. He's got to rely on the Lantern or Flash.
Throwback to week 1, though, of spring, and back to our podcast when we talked about our players of the week as well. Honey had a good week on Aphelios. It was a different Aphelios. He was stronger in terms of his base stats. I would argue that Aphelios is still very strong. Maybe not as strong as that point in power because, his Inferno was ridiculous. Everything was ridiculous.
Inferno was it was Hellfire.
So that's been nerfed again since then. It wasn't quite as his peak term, peak form at that point. But Honey has proved himself to be a serviceable Aphelios, as have many of the LJL AD carries.
Yes.
That's something to play around. You have a Thrash Lantern. If you can start playing around the disengage and reposition of that, particularly because the amount of melee/low range champions on the side of Rascal Jester, Honey is set up to do well this game, as is the Corki. And that means you do have that mixed damage threat as well. You have 280 carries of, AP and AD, because Corki's got his passive and all his abilities to AP as well. There are ways that these late game carries can definitely do what it says on this end.
But they have got to stay safe to do so. We keep bringing it up, but that's because it's going to be their absolute focus in this game. Before doing damage, it will be staying alive to be able to do that damage.
Yes, bring on the BGs.
Whereas for, of course, the side of Rascal Jesters, they put their primary carries, Art and Hachimecha, on the true damage threats, the Graves and the Ezreal. They've left their other members to play a little easier role. And that's probably not a bad thing. When you've got some slightly newer members around about, they've got a pretty obvious targets, they've got pretty obvious play patterns, and that does make things a little easier, especially when there's not quite the synergy built up when you are substitutes.
The thing about the Graves and the Ezreal too is that their follow-up damage is very straightforward. It's long range, you've got Mystic Shots, you've got True Shot Barrage.
Easy to be in range for it, yeah.
Not to say that if you have Calibrum or your ultimate on the side of Aphelios, or you have the Crescendum turrets as well, and then, of course, the Rocket Barrage coming in from the Corki 2, the follow-up damage is still good from the side of Hawks. So I'm looking for... Honestly, a lot of this is on how these backlines interact with the front lines in the team fights. And are they actually getting the damage down? Is it meaningful damage? Are you just funneling it into a full tank Malphite who's gone for the grasp? It's not going to be the AP Malphite. That is always an option.
Oh, Honey. No.
Not again.
No, not again. Honey, I shrunk your health bar, maybe? No?
Oh, man. What is it with 80 carries and standing in that brush?
Alone, no less, versus a Nautilus.
I am at the point. I've seen this. So when you're trying to play something like Clash or in your amateur open league tournaments, stuff like that, one of the easiest ways to get early advantage is just 5-man stack and go for that play into the tri-brush.
Yeah.
Because it's so easy. So many people are used to standing in that brush and not getting punished for it. Just put a ward in there and stand behind it. Stand behind the damn wall. Be safe, please. Dangerous to go alone.
Yeah, and if nobody's there, you get a pretty easy invade route into the jungle as well. Well, there you go. The Hawks are thinking about doing a late invade onto this red side. Cog is going to start backing away. He is on that FPX Malphite skin. Nimbus strike forward there by Aramik onto Cog. Just a little bit of damage down. That's about it.
Worth noting, it is the spellbook on the Galio, and it's lethal tempo on the Corki. That's not something I expect. Normally you see the Fleetfoot book. Gives you a bit more sustain in lane. Also gives you some mobility as well. That extra movement speed when you proc that Keystone does come in pretty clutch when you're trying to reposition in team fights. But having lethal tempo, you proc your Gatling gun, your fast bomb, you have a lot more DPS uptime when you're trying to wail on that Galio in the laning phase.
Right. Well, engage in the bot lane already. That's a bit of a hook in. Both Aftershocks down. We are seeing the split jungle going on, but actually Graves is stuck around to take the Krugs, whereas we saw Tussle head straight back over to his blue buff, not sticking around to contest for Graves' camps. They are going to spot Hachimecha on the wall they place in that tri-bush there.
So, slight advantage for Hachimecha being able to take away 2 camps in that invade instead of just the buff. Level 2 hit by both bot lanes. Nagi maybe looking for that Nautilus passive routing that Aphelios in place, but does not go for that.
Yeah, throws up the shield instead. Just a bit of health trade onto both of those supports. Actually, Art takes a bit of a chunk there. And the Dredge Slide missing is pretty bad news for Nagi. They're going to step forward for that flay. Good hook at the end of it as well. He's in a bit of trouble, but just not enough damage down yet. But the early trade's currently going in the favor of Aphelios and Thresh. Graves is coming down, though, maybe looking to try and bait something in. Honey stepping forward, flashing for the root. That's pretty big. There is the flay. Can they find a way out? It's a massive hook. Grave finds some damage, but it will just be the summoner spell burned out of both support.
And Trundle's coming down for Hachimecha here, but with no prior on the bot lane, Hachimecha, no, he's going back into the tri-rush. This could be a 3v3 very early into this game.
Could well be. They're going to try and find it again. Here's the double flay. Tussle's here. But Hachimecha as well. He's got the ignite down. Teleport's coming in as well. This is going to be an absolute bloodbath in the bot lane. Hachimecha having to flash away. He's under the ignite. But that's a big taunt in. Art flashes out to first blood. He goes down in the end as well. So it's a 1-for-1 right now. Second teleport's coming in. Pink's very, very low. And I think Nagi will go down as well. I think it's in the end. It's a 3-for-1 in favor of Hawks.
I believe it's a 3-for-2 as both the bot lane. The bot lane did both go down for the Hawks there.
Oh,
the
apologies,
big
yes.
beneficiary is going to be Pink. He gets 2 kills on the Galio. We were asking to see, maybe we can get this guy a better lane. As much as we talked about, well, Dashy, he'll be against easier opposition, not against Seros. This time it's Pink who's really come out big in this matchup. Okay, we saw the initial gank from Hatchementia on the Graves down to the bot lane. Tussle comes down to respond, but still turns into a massive 3v3. Both solo laners from both teams brought themselves the teleport, and all of them eventually end up making their way down in here. Galio has the huge initial impact here, but then kind of runs out of damage and is chased down by that not Galio. Oh, he's the Galio. The Wukong with that move speed from the teleport after you finish that channel. What a mess. What a mess.
Glorious mess it is, and both mid laners off to a decent start. Off a result of that, it'll be the CS lead for Corki because he turned up a little later and got to push the wave out. But bot lanes are 0, 1, and 2 apiece, and there are not a lot of summoners available for pretty much everybody
Actually,
here.
The one person that didn't teleport was Kokog.
Yeah,
and he
and
didn't have
still got flash. That's
and
about it.
Hatchementia still has flash. Okay, that's cool. Honey, Dasher did also not have to flash in that fight as well on the Corki. He's going to be pretty happy. The thing about Tussle, he's fine. Okay, it's all right. That's all right.
I wonder whether we might see a seismic shard out there for the slow onto Tussle. Could have thought
Tussle's
about it.
also not reset yet after that play. He's got 1-0-2 on the scoreline, but he's still sat there with the refill potion and just the machete.
Was looking to, I suppose, punish the Graves off the reset he was forced into. It's got him a 10 CS lead as a result of it.
Okay, so kind of settling down. I was about to say, actually, as much as it's nice that the 2 kills are gone over to the Galio, in some ways, I feel it's more important that the early goal goes over to the Corki because it allows him to get up to the Muramana.
Yeah, his early tier is there.
The Manamune went much earlier. The thing about Manamune compared to just sitting on your tier and stuff is that every time you proc that passive of casting a spell or auto attacking, instead of giving you 4 mana, it gives you 6, which means that you're stacking 50% more quickly. That is actually a large amount of extra mana and a large amount of time saved.
That's exactly it. It's a large amount of mana saved. We're going to see the return invade for Hatchementia here, trying to return a bit of the favor. We'll even out to about 10 CS-ish as a result of the way that the count has been split. Yeah, exactly.
At least that one pop.
Yeah, it's super irritating doing that because the Raptors don't respawn. Wolves on the other side don't either.
Krugs, if you kill the main 2, also don't respawn.
They don't. They know Krugs do respawn.
If you kill the main 2, then everything after that counts as a
okay. Hatchementia still here again though.
Tussle's
it's going to be a turnaround.
Teleport!
And this time Cog has level 6. Unstoppable Force is cancelled though. Aramik got that knock up with the Cyclone cast. And Cog has had his teleport burn, but it'll be the ultimate down from Aramik, but worthy trade. No kills come.
I'm going to call absolutely worth on that. Cog does not manage to reach a safe distance where Aramik can't cancel that TP. What was looking like a very good fight for Rascal Jester on that bot side turns into a hasty retreat. He does have to be careful. Tussle's here, has no flash though.
He dashes over the wall, trying to find something over there. Can he find the smite? No, it'll be just Tussle picking that one up. And this Trundle from Tussle is playing up pretty well thus far.
And we were talking about the junglers being this matchup to watch in a lot of ways, and they have been in the thick of it. They both have full kill participation, and they started off those plays in the bot side. And now they're getting CS right up.
Actually, as a result of it as well for Honey.
It is, yeah. No, Ezreal, very hard to deny some farm, but of course with that death in an inopportune time with the wave positioning has lost out a little bit in the early game. Of course, he'll still scale up to ridiculousness as he does. Has the cull as well. He's going for the full scaling.
Oh, another hook. That's fantastic stuff from Pooh. The aftershock is down though. Can they turn it around maybe? Chakrams are there. That's pretty huge. And Honey manages to find his way out from under the turret. He's got level 6 now as well.
Severum Chakrams is such a high TPS combo. You go in with the onslaught with the Severum, get those Chakrams stacked up, switch over to them and your DPS goes through the roof.
Yep, it does. The Ocean Drake was picked up by Tussle as well. And it's looking like a great early start for the Hawks, who are up about looking like 2,000 gold here.
It's 2,000 gold. It's a lot of XP too. We see XP particularly in the jungle. Tussle has a 3-4 camp advantage.
Yeah,
has the levels to go alongside that. We'll be building up to a very early Cinderhulk. And what that means is that the Graves is not ahead in this matchup.
No.
We saw him actually have to run away from that Grom. That's not something we normally see. In fact, it is still that full level advantage as Tussle takes over to 6 well before Hatchementia has his.
That delayed reset has earned Tussle so damn much. And it looked like a good option for the Graves. He managed to turn around that bot lane fight at first. But now, as a result, he's kind of been punished. Cog gets a little bit of damage down onto him, but he's got the Bramble Vest up and he's kind of fine. We've yet to see a good ultimate from Cog as well. That looked like a great turnaround potentially for the Jesters down the bottom. Didn't happen because of the teleport cancel.
Yeah, and that was miscommunication or a mismanagement of Cog of the ranges he had available to him. Worth noting, of course, that Trundle into a full tank Malphite is going to be a very tanky boy.
Yep. Guys, that's a good option for the Trundle, for sure.
It's not an aftershock carrier, for sure, and it's not like you have the Sejuani passive, so it's not maybe the prime target, but it's definitely up in the top tier of targets you want to be taking stats from. It's still a really good pick for that. In fact, Cog is so threatened by the presence of maybe Tussle being that he's backing off from that wave. He manages to go back to it, though.
Yeah, and of course, the reason he's threatened is because the Rift Herald did go down to Trundle while we were chatting about the rest of it. That's the pressure this Trundle has earned for himself thus far. Hatchmatch has got himself level 6 now, at least. As Pink donates the mid-wave over while he clears out a ward.
No, just efficiency. Galio has his protocol. He's going to do all the damage he's going to do already now. We'll see, actually, whether Pink goes towards slightly more damage on something like a Zonya's instead of going for something like a Stone Plate. Gravitum lands on Caliburn Gravitum is such a nasty combo. You hit that Q.
So easy to
and the proc of the Gravitum actually just got a lot. Hatchmatch is in the bot lane.
Yeah, there's going to be a lot of damage available potentially, but Nagi can't quite find his way around in time.
Not nearly as threatening as he would be if he'd completed that Warrior Enchant. That's when, it's one of the most efficient upgrades in the game. It's, if you have exact money for back for a Warrior, you do it every time.
Yep,
it is
every time. Similar deal when, of course, you can get Runic Echoes for AP junglers. It's just great items, frankly.
Yeah, and they're meant to be these early power spike jungles these early power spike items for junglers, which allows them to play a bit more actively around the map for a short period of time when they are ahead of the optimization.
Tussle and, of course, Hachimecha find their way in a bit of conflict. It's a big CS lead for Dasher as well, which I'm assuming where a lot of these goals coming from. Hadn't quite checked in on that yet, but that is huge. It's about 30 CS.
And what were we talking about in terms of Dasher? Well, we want him to have an easier lane matchup, and potentially probably will have to have a spin. Herald looks like it's been summoned in the bot lane. Tussle running into the bot lane of Rascal Jester. I think they'll be able to pop the eye and get some of that HP down, but it won't stop these plates going down in this bot lane turret. Honey is going to take the most of them. He gets one turret on his own and then shares 2 with Tussle thereafter. So he gets himself 160, another 160. That's like another 320 gold in bank.
Easy. That's good work there for the bot lane and jungle of the Hawks. This is so much more composed from this squad right now.
And that's what we were asking for. That's the first thing I said after the postgame. We agreed on it. We went to our postgame kind of break and we thought, okay, all right, Hawks need to really settle down. This is not working for them. They're not being patient enough. Worth noting, of course, that Malphite is getting to that point where he will be just ungodly tanky. He'll have some Fire Cape. He'll have a Thornmail later into the game as well, and he's going to be very hard to deal with unless the Trundle ultimate's up. But of course, it will be up for him, and it should be saved for him. I think that will really test how Cog can play these fights and knowing whether he can survive with those stats being stolen.
The Jesters on the other side, though, are kind of waiting on some very specific item breakpoints. They've got the Warrior Enchant now on Graves. That's probably number 1 of them. Ezreal, though, is only at Sheen, Tyr, and Cull, though, so he's not really at a point of crazy power yet.
No, he hasn't reached up to the Muramana yet. Dasher going to find himself a solo second plate in the mid lane as well, not just the farm, which is the advantage those turret plays going over as well. 40 CS lead is a bit insane here for the Corki. It's not, look, Galio is not the strongest laning champion, but you shouldn't expect that.
No, you should not. And what you should also not necessarily expect is this bot lane tower going down so easily in the bot side. Rift Herald summon, lots of pushing from Honey and Pooh, and they will claim first turret for the side of the Hawks.
Oh, Malphite's here.
Yeah, think about going. That's a good Justice Punch in for the taunt. It's only on a Tussle, but he's taken so down low. He flashes away from the Lantern, and he's going to go down now as well as the True Shot Barrage comes in. Hawks and the rest of the bot lane are going to try and turn this around, but the 100-acre bot lane is trying to be cut down to size. They've got a stopwatch, and Asher is free-firing in the backline, and Honey is surviving. He's got Chakrams, he's got Inferno, and he's got himself a double kill in the back of it.
One of the things we've normally criticized about Honey is his positioning. He gets too far forward. He gets in too much danger. He judges it right this time. He gets the Chakram stacked up, and he wrecks Nagi, and Pink has no way to survive as well. It's going to get them a 2-for-1 and also a dragon.
Oh, man. Hatchmatch was kept out of the fight for so long after the initial pick on Tussle.
Yeah, it was. Okay, so my main problem here is that, Dasher manages to escape the taunt. If you manage to get Dasher in that original combo, the Unstoppable Force comes through, and then it's kind of lights out for the backline here of the Hawks, particularly because Defals would have then had to fight on his own versus so many carries. We see here, though, the cooldowns have been used so early into this fight. Again, like we've seen in so many other games today, the threat just disappears after a point. And when you're talking about these 80 carries who had that extra base HP increase, they are that much harder to solo out.
They are, and when you only hit one person with your wombo combo, even if it is the jungler, and then you kind of don't have the
You
same amount of
also
damage
stole the
output.
stats from the Malphite.
Yeah, exactly. And they got that kill, but the Galio went down. Hatchimechi couldn't find his way into the fight. Art had to flash out over the wall because he didn't want to be next to Crescendum Inferno. Reasonably so.
That's reasonable.
Reasonably so. It does put things in a difficult position.
Oh,
Cog is in the back. Remember, Honey has got no flash now. He's walking into it.
There's no flash.
He has no flash. The slow is there. The grounded pound. He's got the seismic shard. Can he find a way out? That's the lantern there. You're going to see the pillar
He doesn't
come
need
down.
to use it.
Oh, Nagi's there getting pushed away. And Dasher turns up as well. The package is around. Cog's in trouble. Teleports galore do win Hawks this fight. They're continuing to go in. Nagi goes down as well. It's a triple kill for Dasher.
And that's not just a win. That is a huge win. And everything comes with it. It's kills. It's money into the pocket of your carries because Honey was involved in all of them. It's cooldowns wasted from the side of Rascal Jester. And it's also a turret in that top lane going to be their second of the game. And that gold will also go over to the FLOS. Honey is set up to massively carry this game. Who else is set up to carry this game? Is Dasher. 4-0-4. Use that teleport with the package to get to the top lane. And without the unstoppable force available, Cog just had nothing to say in that fight. He just did. He just kind of walked up, used his basic abilities, and had nothing to do.
Yeah, he tried to get the slows down, but the pillar was there, the lantern was there, Dasher turns up. It turns into a 4 versus 3 without much damage in very short order. And everything the Jester trying to play, it's been turned around. All the Hawks have been so swift to teleport in this game. That's been really good for them. And the one time the Jester tried to get the free teleport themselves, Aramik cancelled the teleport. The unstoppable forces really haven't been all that impactful as yet from the Jesters.
No, they haven't. And at least now Cog has Sunfire Cape, has Bramble Vest. They will help. It means that the side lane is not going to be capitulated. It's not like there's a Blade of the Ruin King onto Wukong, which we sometimes see into these tank matchups. Might even build it second, we don't know. I'd probably suggest going forwards to the Death Stance, maybe more for that team fighting build. But yeah, so the side lane Malphite will still be fine against the Wukong, but then the problem is you still have to deal with the Trundle. As many armor items you can buy, it's not going to give you MR versus the Corki, which you'll need, and the Trundle still steals your stats and becomes really tanky.
Yeah, and they've still got to find a way to get through. Dashes 404 enemy health bar not found. Corki, that is pretty obscene right now. He's not quite at the Trinity Force, but he's nearly popped the cull. And I suspect after that point with his double item spike, he's probably not that far away as well. He might get this one as well.
The cannon wave on top lane there is pretty important. So there's no flash on Honey. They can potentially look to solo him out. There's a continued push from the Hawks up here, and they have no way to respond to it to Rascal Jester. There's no dragon just yet. They were looking to push down the mid lane outer turret, but it's too high HP. There's also wave clear from Honey, and the disengage of the Thresh too. The Herald goes and charges onto the inhibitor turret, and even that will be very low now.
Of course, inhibitor turrets do regen health over time. It's worth pointing out.
Not a large amount, though.
It's quite hard to get back there, I suppose. So there's something to that. But look at the gold graphs before we go anywhere else. That's 3,000 gold in the lead for Corki and about 2 for the Aphelios.
Yes, that is quite a bit of gold. That is a fair amount.
That is gold.
That is gold. And also, Dasher just spent pretty much everything he had in his pocket as well to finish off that Triforce. Get himself a Kirchhoff shard as well. Going towards that fire cannon, looks like.
Going towards the fire cannon, that's the way forwards. And I can understand that for the Corkis already at this point. His range and staying away from people like Galio and the Malphite seems like a great idea.
And the other thing for me, so in the past, you'd see Triforce maybe into an Infinity Edge second. Because you have the Mirror Mana, and it gives you so much AD, which then, of course, applies onto your AP auto attacks as well, you already have a lot of auto attack damage. You don't need that Infinity Edge to give you that extra sting. You just need extra attack speed to make sure you're doing it more often. And, of course, the Fire Cannon meaning you can do it from a safer range. So if you go Mirror Mana into Triforce into Fire Cannon, it gives you very, very good DPS.
Tussle, Cog, Hatchimecha, all playing the waiting game here. Hatchimecha now will be spotted. He will spot Tussler's result with the sweeper, though. I'm a bit of a fight. There's no package. Dasher does avoid that dredge line, though. That's pretty big. Galio's coming in, but it might be too late. Though, just going to survive is Nagi, but I think it's still a lost fight. There's so much damage. Aramik gets a massive cyclone. Cog's trying in the backline, but he doesn't get anything. That's not AP Malphite, and the fight is horrifically lost by Hatchimecha. Aramik and Dasher are relentless, though. The rock is just going wide. The Nimbus Strike is in, and it's a double kill for the Wukong on the back end of it. 13 kills to 3. And I suspect, your prediction was right. I think this is going to be a Hawks win over the Jesters.
I'll drink to that. The Hawks did manage to pull off that patient early game. They have the items now onto their carries. 5-0 and 6 is Dasher, for God's sake. He's got everything he needs to do to chunk out the carries and the tanks. Tussle does take a brunt of damage from Hatchemetra in the early parts of this. He uses his ultimate onto the Aftershock Nautilus, gets himself a lot of resist, and while Kogog has a decent unstoppable force, Art is already just out of the fight. Aramek solos him out. Aramek does a lot of damage to the backline. He basically solos out 2 people on his own, and the double Cyclone is one hell of a drug. And then he dives under turret and gets the second one. It's well played by Aramek. Much better showing than the first game.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. And for, of course, Nagi on this Nautilus, he's kind of been struggling a little bit. Check out those damage numbers as well.
That's pretty nice.
About equal numbers from the Aphelios and the Corki, who have been doing pretty swift work. You can see that Hatchemetra's been struggling to find his way into fights. You can see Art's doing his best. Malphite's finding something with the unstoppable forces, but like, it's been really hard work because for all their backline access, Cog and Pink have not found their way onto Honey and Dasher, who are surviving and putting out ridiculous damage numbers.
And remember, this is Pink, who had the 2 early kills from that bot lane play, and he has done very little with it. In fact, he went on to lose lane handily. He's not done anything in lane. You can give him...
He's 80 CS down for crying out loud. It's not even 20 minutes.
You can take into consideration Galio is not a good matchup into Corki in a lot of ways, because Corki just has that consistent DPS, ran the lethal tempo as well, gives him that extra trading potential. But being that far down is very bad. It's very bad. You lost first... Well, you're not first rate, but you lost a lot of turret plays in the mid lane. You never had a chance to roam out of lane as well. We saw that on...
Oh, my days.
We saw that on the Rumble as well. And, I said, like, with the 98% chance we saw earlier in the day, so you're saying there's a chance? I'm not even sure I could say that now. That's potentially like, that's the lowest you can round it up really to. That could be like 1 vote and be like, okay, so we have to give 1% just to round it up so it isn't 0.
Well, yeah, there are 99 reasons for Hawks to win this one, and the Jesters have just got 1.
Oh,
Nagi walks in, and the diver dives too deep. They're going to throw in the Galio ult as well. That's a bit late. Aramek was being actually a clone. That's really sad. The Gravitum, the Crescendum, the dash forward from Dasher. Hatchemetra goes down as well, and that will be all she wrote. There is 4 men dead. Cog returns in as much haste as he can, but there's 20 seconds on most of the people for the Jesters. I think they might just push and end it here, Nymera.
This is 21 minutes. Normally I'd say, oh, wait, it's not over until the fat lady sings. I think they killed her too in that fight.
Yeah. Fat lady didn't get to make a scream in that one. They throw a DFN sign out there. They know who they lost to. They know who they're emulating. And this Wukong, this Corki, this Aphelios absolutely level the Jesters.
18-3, quickest game of our day so far, and it's from the Hawks of all teams. Some might have called it an upset. I probably would have called it that, even though I predicted them to win going into this. And to recoup what we did over today and kind of look back through this game, we're going to go to a very quick break. Please don't go anywhere.
Hello everybody, and welcome to the LJL Officially Unofficial Cast. I am still your host, Alex, otherwise known as Actually Go by Master on the internet. And gentlemen, what was that game? Initialized Nymera. The Hawks seem to have a reasonably decent performance there. Oh, are you sipping some tea? Are you saying you told us so?
That's the tea, darling. That's the tea.
Even you couldn't predict, that was going to happen in your wildest of dreams, could you?
Well, I think it was always going to be an interesting one, wasn't it? This was the match where we were least certain because of where the Jesters were at with their substitutes, where the Hawks were at with their previous split records and their shifted members. It was a hard match to call. It turns out that when they get to play with a bit of patience and use some good TPs, the Hawks are all right.
When all the stars align, TPs work in every way, Honey doesn't get caught out in positioning, like multiple things align, yes, the Hawks win. Apparently they win in 20 minutes. Let's first talk about those TPs, as that was something that appeared to be a very important component for the Hawks to win this early game, especially in that bot lane. Take it away, Initialize. You keep giving a look, and I feel like you want to talk about this.
I will happily do it. There were multiple TPs in that bot lane that went super even at first. It was kind of 0-1 and 2. I think it was 3 for 2 in the end. It seemed pretty close.
It was.
Then there were a couple things that went really wrong. There was a teleport that was cancelled by Aramik onto Cog, which would have blown open that bot lane, which then put the Jesters in a really difficult bind. And the second thing, which I think Nymera will want to talk about, is Tussle did not back after that fight.
Didn't. No, that's it. Tussle stayed out on the map for a very long time, and he just impacted everything. It was really good.
Yes, Tussle definitely had a huge performance in this game, and this was a rather sad showing from Hachimecha, really. One of the disappointing performance, really, from this a long-time player in the LJL, really. Like, some could say jungle diff. Would you say that, Nymera?
I think that, on the whole, it was a cohesion thing. Sure. It's most easily seen in the teleports, right? You know, particularly that top lane one where the Rascal Jester tried to couch out Honey pushing into the top lane outer turret, and then you've got a package teleport from Dasher. There's no ultimate on the Malphite. You're still trying to go for that play. That kind of sums it up for me. Like, all the pieces weren't there. You still try and fight. It compounds the issue.
Yeah, and it really did push that issue a lot further, gentlemen. This mid lane was interesting to watch. Who wants to start this off? Go on, Nymera.
I'm gonna go say this, but like, lethal tempo Corki is not usual, and it's not usual for a lot of reasons. It is a swagger pick, really, because normally you need that fleet footwork to reposition, get yourself out of a Galio taunt, get yourself out of other stuff. Dasher picks lethal tempo, he gets extra damage, he gets away with it, and he crushes that lane. He crushes that game. He ran away with that. He reached his items really quickly and just did his job as Corki.
Yeah, no, go on. Initialize, hammer on top of it.
We saw, this is kind of and the aftermath of that bot lane debacle, the bloodbath that occurred. Galio walks up with 2 kills. It looks great. Corki comes up with 1. Looks pretty good for him as well.
Yes.
It should not be, with the Galio going back, picking up an early proto belt, gets the stopwatch early. That should be easy enough for Galio to clear the wave and not fall 80 CS behind. That is rough. And then all of the heroes' entrances after that were on to 1 targets, barely hit anything, and Dasher and Honey stayed safe, which I thought was going to be a nightmare for that squad.
Yeah, no, and that has definitely been a point of problems. It's what I highlighted, where we had this core unit of USG, and then the lone wolves almost forgotten about of the Hawks, of Honey and Pooh. But this was a game where, one, that bot lane looked relatively strong, and actually they partly carried some of these big team fights, especially around this dragon that Honey was able to survive a huge through positioning, and then was able to really clean up with that Aphelios. Gentlemen, I want to pass it over to you both if you've got anything else you really would like to cover regarding this match.
For this match in particular, patience from the Hawks. We talked about that pre-game. We talked pre-game for this game, post-game for the last game too, and particularly in regards to Dasher.
Yes.
But the whole team were just on point. They just waited that extra moment. They knew when they had to fight, when they actually had everything in position. And you could see that juxtaposed against Rascal Jester, where they were teleporting bot lane without Malphite ult. And then when they did try and teleport with Malphite ult, it wasn't in the right position, it was cancelled. And then they tried to fight again without Malphite ult. And it's just, where it's like, you can tell the difference between these mindsets, particularly in this game. And that showed to me. It's just a lot of patience.
And it still had the Hawks' patented aggression. It just came with teleport backup.
It was tempered.
Which makes a massive difference. It wasn't Dasher going in for a 1 versus 2. It was a 3 versus 2 for once. And like, it's been a while since I've seen the Hawks play where they have the numbers advantages.
Well, maybe this Corki is a pickup from Dasher that we should be seeing more often, especially as it's not a terrible substitute for a Lucian mid. They do play somewhat similarly. It's just one of them is far better at the moment, and that is the Corki in a lot of composition. So maybe a continuing trend. But gentlemen, let's recap over these 4 games that we've had. We now see Rascal Jester 0-2 at the end of this week. Not something that we were hopeful for, but not something that we're surprised about, I think I'm fair to say.
No.
Substitutes on a late day are difficult. That's the reality of it.
Yep. These things happen, especially when you're not able to get as much traveling in as you would like it to be. Hopefully they will be returning very, very soon, the members of Rascal Jester, so we can get in and go on. What is it, Nightmare?
Well, I'm just trying to remember, right? So, I mean, when we were talking about Axe's last split, they've started off 0-4, 0-5,
Yes.
0-4, I think it was. And they won, then
4-1-1 lost one, then they started doing it well afterwards.
They made playoffs. They made an impact on us. We liked the way they played. There were some points to be picked from that, and they had a bad early start.
They did.
Rascal Jester is a different situation. We know that they're not in their preferred lineup because of this stuff, but a 0-2 start does not capitulate your split. It's not great. We saw how you had to fight to get into playoffs last split. It's not over yet. No.
Well, apparently getting 5 wins is normally the payoff bracket breaking point. So definitely get those 5 wins.
Madness.
6 is normally safe. I mean, it depends if DFM do a huge win, but talking about DFM, we saw them go 1-1 with basically the same kind of game happening, just on 2 different sides of the coin for DFM. Take this one away, Initialize, if you would, please.
I think it's a little bit of draft difference, specifically versus the enemy comp. The second game versus the Hawks, they drafted a comp that was really meta. They had the Hecarim and the Graves. They looked so cohesive. It worked versus the enemy composition. Some good outplays in there as well, like Utapon winning the 1v1 versus the Irelia is a little bit mad. That probably shouldn't have happened. Versus Sengoku got the better draft versus DFM's comp. And that was problematic. And when you've got teams that are good, and that is a big draft advantage, that makes a big difference. And for Sengoku Gaming, well, different story, eh?
Well, Sengoku Gaming are going to be smiling all the way through this and until they face off against DFM again, and that won't be happening till after week 5. So we've got a while till we're going to be seeing that matchup again. The Hawks, on the other hand, are there, but let's finish off Sengoku. Sengoku 2-0 going in. They have to be feeling good about this, right? You have to be feeling good if you're Blank, Pyrion, and the rest of the Sengoku crew, especially Appamen, who is maybe the biggest carry on that team.
Okay. Appamen is just, oh god, what I call him the biggest. He's the guy with the most character in game because like we laugh
out with that hair.
Oh, so beautiful. Great. No, I mean, like, you told him he actually had a stellar game today. Couple of games today. So to Blank is, I would say Blank was actually the most impressive.
His Lee Sin and his Grace.
You know, 100% kill participation for the majority of both games. That is
very true.
Very good. And he was on 2 very different picks as well, Lee Sin and Graves. And the thing for me is, like, I need to see Sengoku succeed now without playing Aatrox and without playing Ezreal. If they can do that, then I'm convinced. Until then, I need to see teams remove that from them.
Yeah, and then that just leaves us with our 4th and final team, that being the Hawks, who have just licked a wound against a less than optimal team. And gentlemen, I'll toss this over to Initialize first. what does this mean for the future of the Hawks? Yes, they beat Rascal Jester, but this isn't the Rascal Jester we really know in its perfect form, where they were able to beat Sengoku in almost a perfect game in 24 minutes at the end of week 7 when Sengoku looked undefeated. This
like perfect cell, and then like insect cell form, and then the cell form below that. I don't know about Dragon Ball stuff besides that, but
All right. So
the Hawks.
To bring it back to League of Legends and the Hawks, I have a bit of a worry about them in some ways, in that they got slammed versus DFM. Like, it was not close. And they did a very similar thing to the Jesters. Part of it was better play. You know, they teleported in the right places and they outplayed. But that's sometimes what I'm a bit worried about is how much do the Hawks rely on outplaying, and against better coordinated teams like DFM and like we saw towards the end of last split, where they do go for the outplays and then consistently fail them and fall apart. What happens? And they ride that knife's edge where if they outplay, they do well. If they don't, they're garbage. And I'm a little nervous, especially considering we've seen them against two very different opponents in terms of DFM with good draft, good play, versus Rascal Jesters looking a bit lost for substitutes.
That's fair. Nightmare, any other thoughts on that?
I think it's pretty fair what he just said with his last point. We don't really have a good yardstick for them.
No.
We need to see an improvement. This is an improvement, don't get me wrong, actually. Winning in that style when they did have the advantage, that's still better than what we saw at the end of the split. Don't get me wrong, and I'm glad that happened.
True.
A win is a win.
Yeah.
The win is a win at the end of the day. And it is a good win, and it will bolster their hopes. And we saw the Hawks fall apart when the momentum started to fail back in Split 1, in Spring Split. So use this to build towards greater things. We'll see what you can do.
Well, I hope they do. And going into week 2, we will be seeing them face off against Sengoku. So that's going to be
another challenge, isn't it?
To see if they have evolved into maybe a more perfect form like Cell, or if they have regressed into their spring selves. Now, dear viewer, and all listeners out there, if you're just listening to us in the background, we have some good news. We will be doing coverage of the first 4 games of the LJL. We obviously cover these first 4 games while these last 4 games when they're live due to time differences, and we will be doing a recap stream covering the first 4 games. That coverage will be of Axis facing off against CGA, then V3 Esports facing off against Axis. Third game will be Crest Gaming Act facing off against Burning Core, and to end us will be Burning Core facing off against V3 Esports. We will be conducting that time around mid to early morning over in the UK. We will know fully once we have discussed off stream. We just knew we were going to do this. Check our Twitter. Follow us on Discord, or join our Discord. Follow us on Twitter, join our Discord, and follow us on here to get all the notifications and everything else like that. Gentlemen, gonna pass over to you. Any of your closing thoughts for the day?
Yeah, I am pleasantly surprised by the momentum that Sengoku have come into today with, and that is big because we had a lot of questions about, well, okay, what's the actual level of the LGL? Should we feel good? How are we feeling about Worlds play-ins? If this is the base starting level of Sengoku, and we know the heights which DFM can reach, will at least be a 2-team region. If we see V3 and CGA perform tomorrow as well, and when we cover that, I have good hopes for the competition which the eventual winner of the LGL will have faced, and that brings me joy. This one sparks joy.
Yeah, it does good. We feel good. You feed a Poro a cookie, it runs around on an ARAM. You feel like that's the kind of heartwarming you feel.
That's what I've got right now.
Oh yeah. Initialize?
I'm just excited we're not seeing just straight tank tops that we've been seeing in the other regions. We're getting Hekarims and Wukongs. That's what I'm talking about. LEC and LCS's boring sets and Maokais and the rest. I don't need any of that. I want Ignite Hecarim top, and that's what I really care about right now.
Get Rengar and Volibear will be lions and tigers and bears.
Indeed. Oh my. We did have the Jungle Book references earlier, so
that's great.
Oh my, indeed. The LJL always does deliver excitement every week that we do cover it, so are we really that surprised, gentlemen? I think not really. But that will actually end our stream here. For myself, Alex, or rather, Mars Swan, Initialize, Nymara, the Hapgood Brother duo, thank you so much for watching, and we'll be back very, very soon. Take care.